because the companies that we're trying to recruit at the Business Development Board to come here, they have the entire array of housing needs for their employees. So with all of the western suburban development coming online, I think we will see a lot of offerings of single-family, large lot. Downtown, I hope we see the micro units. We do see a trend towards smaller units in the downtown. Part of that is a function of cost. Part of it, I think, is a function of the people that we're trying to attract here, millennials in particular. So Dr. Murray used the adage that I think we've all followed, that people follow jobs. That has been turned a bit on its head by this generation. Millennials seem to seek where they want to live first and worry about finding a job second. So if they decide they want to live in Boulder and ski, they go to Boulder and figure out what they're going to do once they get there, which is entirely unlike our generation, our parents' generation. I admire it on a personal level. It's frustrating if you hire them. We have a few young associates who take their lifestyle before work a little too seriously. That would not have worked in my generation. So we'll see how that works out. West Palm Beach is on the cusp of being a big enough city to have smaller unit, micro unit type of development, but I don't know if we're big enough to sustain a lot of it like you would see in Miami or New York. So we'll see.
So for the first time in my career, we work backwards on who our clientele is. We figure out where I can find land to build on. We figure out the cost of entitlement. Then we figure out the product, and we look for who can afford our product in that location, and if there's enough of that clientele to sell to. I noticed on one of the graphs a little earlier that we showed 17,000 units a year being built between single family and residential. I think it was in Palm Beach County. And we're only doing about 6,000. It's not that there's not market demand. There's only market demand for the 6,000 people that can afford my product. So my company, Pulte Group, we have 4 brands. Del Webb, which caters to 55 and over. The Basta, which is a local brand that, we, any place we can put it, we do. Particularly in Palm Beach County. We have Pulte, that's a move-up buyer, and we have Centex, which is our starter home. I don't find a Centex land use in Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County, or even in Martin County. And so that whole specter that we see up there of only 6,000 homes, it's catering to us, professionals, people that have good jobs, but that workforce housing that keeps getting, a dirty word that keeps popping all over this county. It's really driven on the control of land or the ability or the flexibility in our county to utilize that land. I mean, I saw a graph up there, I think, that showed the cost to service, some of the land, out west. Well, my first house was in Kendall. Way out west, I was in college, 137th Avenue. I know you all don't know Miami that well, but I could drive from 137th Avenue to Florida Turnpike and go north in about 6 minutes. That same ride today takes an hour. Okay? For planning their traffic program, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But why did Kendall really develop? Because there was a 4-lane divided highway that went out to the middle of nowhere and traffic could get in. And it's the same reason that we're seeing the people that, what do you call it, drive to you can afford it? Drive to qualify. I knew it was there. So we're seeing that happen again in our St. Lucie County and Martin County markets where we have it, because the same house that I built in Jupiter that sells for about $750,000, I can deliver for $350,000 north. So people come in, they look at the house, they love it. Guess what? They drive north. They're saving $300,000 because they're looking for a home. They're not looking at it as a long-term investment.
Tony, just in a couple of words, why is the difference? What is the difference? Is it the density? Is it the construction value? Is it the land value? Is it?
Oh, come on, George, you entitled that property. You know better than me. 278 units on 300 acres right next to the turnpike. With so many lakes, I don't know what to do with the excess fill. You really want to warm me up? I mean, come on. I mean, all the takeouts. Matter of fact, I had 2 utility companies up there. I pay twice. I pay one utility for water, and I pay another for reuse water. I mean, and it goes on.
Okay, thank you, Tony.
Appreciate your comments. How about questions from the audience? Well, you have several people here that are in the private sector. Go ahead.
So I get a mic now? I don't think I need one, but I guess I'll do it. Good morning, I suppose. My name is Jennifer Ferriel. I work for Housing and Community Development here for the city of West Palm Beach. And throughout the majority of this presentation, I've heard a lot about millennials and how we need to target millennials and how we need to address millennials and their need or our desire, and I guess that I'm a millennial, so I guess I'm also speaking for myself, to live in urban areas. So we talk about that, and when I think about our city and our county, when I think about the vast majority of our millennials, I think about housing costs. And yes, we want to live in urban areas, but can we afford to live in urban areas? And Ken, one of the things that you said was that, and I wrote this down, so I'm going to quote you. That workforce housing does not work because of the economics of workforce housing. So I'm interested in knowing, how do we target millennials, right? And how do we address the living costs for millennials and the fact that the majority of us cannot afford what it takes to live in these areas.
Let me address what I said. I want to make sure everybody heard what I said. Make sure I said it right. Workforce housing does not work in vertically integrated buildings because the cost of construction it's like $200 a square foot. You can't make the economics doesn't work, and that's just for the concrete to build the outside. It doesn't include the cost of land.
How do we make it work? What would it take to make it work?
The math will not work without subsidizing it. Even with more density, it's still, the construction cost is still there. Even at 600 square feet, it's still $200 a square foot to build it, versus Tony does his single-family homes out west. It's just pure construction. It's $80 to $90 a square foot. So you got to recognize that you go up, it's about 2 to 3 times as much. And that's the truth.
So now how do we address the whole millennial aspect and the fact that, again, living in these areas is not something that most millennials, and we're not talking about the small majority of millennials who probably can't afford it, but those of us that can.
So I can address just a building in downtown West Palm Beach because I happen to be the president of the condo board. The HOA fees, the condo reserves, and the reserves and the condo fees for 610 Clematis, right down the road here, are $700 a month. That's before there's rent or taxes.
Another question.
Thank you. This is so good. Congratulations to Nelson and all who were involved in putting this together. So first a comment, and so the millennial thing, don't think of it as just the downtown. In my neighborhood, I'm surrounded by a very diverse economic situation. The multi-unit 90-year-old building next to me has guys that are riding their bike to the Breakers golf course to mow it. I've got PBA students. I've got, Bruce Helander just moved down to my neighborhood a couple of years ago. I've got one of your partners in my neighborhood. It's a very mixed neighborhood. So it's not just the urban core. It's all the neighborhoods that were the first-ring suburbs around it that have garage apartments and mother-in-law flats and all that sort of thing. Now, this panel blew my mind completely. The idea of land as just a product that works for the developer and the individual purchasing it works, and that's what the market is driving and in many cases demanding. But for the community, that's like fast food. It tastes good and it's cheap, but it's not good for us. So those externalized impacts that we all know are there how do we account for that? So Ken, you gave the number of $80 a square foot for suburban PUD versus 200, I think, a square foot for vertically integrated. Similar sort of product. How does the public sector, what happens to balance that so we don't keep getting more expensive to the public product and we get a better product?
Government has to be flexible. You have to understand that what I do is not bad. When I make a profit for my shareholders, that's a good thing. And if I can make a profit and build workforce housing, I will. And I actually made a pledge, and Pulte's the only national home builder right now that's actually trying to build for sale workforce housing in Palm Beach County. And, Patrick has gotten to know me intimately, and we're focused on it. But, we know it's for the good of the community, but when I sit and I run the numbers for my company, it doesn't work unless there's some creative way to get there. And I'll give a very simple example. I flew out to California before the Great Recession, and I analyzed single-family homes being built at 12 units an acre. I can't build townhouses in Palm Beach County at 12 units an acre. So just think of that. A single-family home being built in Palm Beach County, 12 units an acre. It's not a condo. By the way, that's the only way that you can kind of circumvent some of the rules. You say, oh, it's going to be a condo and I can do whatever I want. But other than that, there's no way to get there.
One more question, please.
Kind of a little bit of a follow-up, but, so much, and when you look at planning theory, you look at, the transects, what we're talking about here, and I think where Tony is getting, and what Patrick hit on too, for us in Palm Beach County, what we're going to continue to look at, is the concept of that missing middle. Because that's where, for traditionally the bulk of the workforce, people transitioning to that first single-family home lived. And we definitely have a real divide. We have our downtown cores with our very intense developments, with those higher construction costs. But there's a lot of opportunity, I think, as a planner, for townhome-type developments, mid-rises. And, I'm going to give a plug for the city in which I reside, which is Lake Worth, and we have our planning director here, William Waters. And when you look at the density, and we're talking about the same thing that Raphael was bringing up, look at the density within Lake Worth. I live in a single-family home. My lot size is 50 by 135. We have probably around 12 units an acre, and not every home has an accessory apartment. Some do. Rental prices are affordable with the accessory apartments. But what I'd like to know from you all, where my question is going, is where do you all see, could you, Tony, do an apartment, a multi-generational thing, an accessory dwelling, all of those other types, and how do you fit that in? And do it at a workforce price point. And the price points we're talking about in the county are 60 to 140% of median income.
So, Aaron, I'm going to address that part because really good points. First thing, I agree. Density is important. If we can have the accessory apartments, great. So let me just give you a little bit of history. I can think of one project, the Brigger parcel. Sorry, Natalie, I'm going to pick on you here. The Brigger parcel has accessory units. A decision was made during the DRI process that said that shall not count as concurrency. Avenir has 3,250 units. Could have had accessory apartments associated with that. However, the county made the decision that those accessory units shall count as traffic concurrency. What does that mean? That means another $8,000 impact fee per house. It means proportionate share goes up significantly. I really believe this, because my mom lives at our house during the winter. We have a courtyard-style house. Now, she doesn't have a kitchen, but if she had a kitchen, that would be a separate unit, right? So, but she stays here. What a great way to have multi-generational. I think the county and all municipalities should look at that and just maybe make requirements that the owner of the property has to live in one part of the house and they can rent out the other part. I know, Raphael, you were talking about Nick's house. I mean, yeah, Nick has rented out his garage apartment for years. It works great. We've had him, he's not here. We've had an intern in our office who lived there for years. That's my 2 cents.
Well, thank you so much. There's